Hey guys, I'm back with your third option here on our third practice run before AP Day. You basically now have a question here about continuous narration. And what we're looking at is the selected word comes from the Vienna Genesis. This is the story about Jacob, I think. Jacob is getting a blessing from an angel and there's a fight. And finally we see him earn that symbolic gesture. So it is a little hard to see. You guys have the continuous narration that wraps around the bottom of the page, and we see Jacob several times fighting to get that blessing. So that's the example of what continuous narration is. We see the same person in the same picture multiple times at different places in the story. Okay, got type at the top, imagery at the bottom. Let's see what this question is all about. Continuous narration allows the artist an opportunity to demonstrate many different parts of a story within the same work for a variety of different reasons. All right, we've pegged the theme. The work shown is one example of the use of continuous narration. Select and fully identify another work in the image set that makes use of continuous narration. You may select from the list below, or you may choose any other relevant work. All right, the door is wide open on those works that use this stuff. And there's a lot of images not in the image set that we use to teach that students and other school districts might want to use. So we'll see how that goes. They give us some options, the list below, the Bayeux Tapestry, which I know some of you really love. The column of Trajan, which is fairly easy to remember as long as you know those battles were against the Dacians, right? And there's actually two series of wars against the Dacians. Trajan shows up all over the thing. Of course, we have the Last Judgment of Hunefer from the Book of the Dead. He shows up on the left with Anubis, I think, holding his hand, right? And then shows up later on being presented to Osiris, the mummy god of the dead. All right, so those are all key works that would work well for continuous narration compared to this one. All right, so let's jump in here. Let's attack the prompt. I'm going to keep it under the camera. There we go. Describe, explain. By now, I'm hoping that you feel really comfortable with this and that you're now more concerned about making sure you have enough to say than you are about understanding the question, right? I hope that this is becoming pretty standard with the number of these that we're seeing. So, all right, where's my verb down here? Why did the artist? It's a question. Well, if I have to use because to answer that question, what am I doing? Well, I'm explaining, right? So that's an implied explain right there, okay? Why did the artist find it necessary to use continuous narration in meeting the aims of the specific patron for each of these works? Okay, so use contextual evidence from both works in your response. All right, so I've got 4 verbs now. That's not enough points for a 30-minute or 25-minute question. Let's go back and look at some connector words, right? Describe the specific subject matter in each work. Okay. Explain a similarity or a difference. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Similarity, difference. I like the way some of you guys did that. It made it real obvious on the page. Okay. There's another difference. Okay, we'll keep on with our boxing words. There's a how. How is always important about function or form. And there it is, form, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say with form, which is the elements of art and the principles of design. You want to talk about color, texture, hue, shape, line, those kinds of things. If you want to talk about composition, we could do balance. We could use repetition. I mean, those ideas are all what form is all about, okay? Moving forward, each work. Okay, there's a little boxy word, each. Let's look down here. Difference in the specific settings in which the artworks would have originally been seen of both. And, okay, why did the artist find it necessary to use it or to use contextual from both? All right, so hows and whys and, whoops, forgot my why here. Okay, I think we've got a pretty good idea. Describe the subject matter. That's very specific. And you know why they did that? They split out subject matter here because we're going to talk about form right there. Be specific there, right? Those are both visual characteristics, and we've just got to know the difference between the two. Explain a difference in the specific settings in which the artworks. You see how they went to context here? Sighting or setting in which the artworks would have originally been seen by viewers of both. All right, so this is pretty specific to contextual evidence, and I'm going to say that that's implied. You don't have it in the prompt with CE. And then it shows up down here in your last thing with CE from both works, right? Okay, now what do we got to do? We got to find the subject matter that confirms continuous narration. So that would be like what? Jacob and Jacob and Jacob and Jacob showing up more than, and you would have to describe where that is, right? First, we see him on the road with an entourage behind him. We see a bend in the road over a bridge, and then the action starts. Here, the angel appears. Here, they fight. Here is a blessing. So you see the same characters more than once here, right? And then they go on their merry way. So the idea basically is that confirms my continuous narration. Bayeux Tapestry, we have Bishop Odo, we have William the Conqueror, we see them eating, we see them in a cavalry charge. Column of Trajan, we see him leading the troops over the river Danube, building fortresses, claiming victory. Puna Fair, we see the weighing of the heart ceremony, we see the four sons of Osiris as little canopic jars, celebrating his successful entry into paradise. We even into the afterworld, and we even see him in the upper register, right? Sitting in front of all of those gods, or actually the gods are sitting. I think he's standing in front of them, right? So you see ways to make all of these continuous narration. Okay, moving on. Similarity or difference in how the form of each work affects the use of okay. So right, so what is the form? Well, this is a page out of a book, right, or a folio out of a codex. That is a woven piece of artwork, which is really embroidery, and it's a very long continuous banner. Column of Trajan is sculpture that wraps around itself all the way from the bottom to the top. And the Last Judgment of Hunefer, that is a scroll, right, that goes into the mummy's tomb. So he wakes up, he's animated, he's got his guidebook right there. So the page means we're going to have to take this and wrap it around, right? We're going to have to take the continuous story, which would have gone on in a scroll, and bend it back on itself to fit on the page of a book. The Bayeux Tapestry, we've got to make sure we've got a place to hang this tapestry, and that was because it was hung in Bishop Odo's church, right? All the way around a banquet hall, a reception area where people could basically see for themselves the truth of that history. Column of Trajan was a super huge marker spiraling up, so that would be why the spirals need to work the way they do. And then because this is a scroll that's going to be used and accessed by the deceased, it's got to be small enough to be tucked into the tomb, right? So we're going to have continuous composite profiles, continuous depiction of people in that most easily to identify way, right? So we've got all of that. Now we move on to the difference in specific settings in which the artworks would have originally been seen. Okay. I'm going to do that for both. Why did the artist find it necessary to use continuous narration in meeting the aims of the specific patron for the works? That's a loaded question. And then we have to use CE and VE. Nope, CE, sorry, from both works. You got it. All right. Describe specific subject matter in each work. All right, T1 and T2, subject matter that shows continuous narration. Explain a similarity or difference. All right. I think there's a strong similarity with this and the Bayeux Tapestry and maybe the Hunefer. There's a strong difference, I think, between Column of Trajan and this form, right? So it depends on which one you use, but I think that is a formal similarity or difference that makes up T3. Explain a difference in the specific settings, right? So now we're really talking about a difference, where they would have been seen or used. This is in the form of Trajan. Bayeux Tapestry was in a reception hall, a throne room, or the cathedral of Bishop Odo. Last Judgment, we know that was in a tomb. So I think you have plenty of stuff to do, a T3, T4. Why did the artist find it necessary to use continuous narration? Okay, I think that seems like a similarity. I'm going to say we need to answer that. T5, why was continuous narration the way to go for both of these guys, right? And then evidence from both works, I've got T6, T7. Okay, so now we're ready to graph this thing. All right, up at the top, I got to put my describe boxes. This will be subject matter and continuous narration, right? Okay, so that's T1, T2, and there should be 3 things there, right, that tell me that's being done. Next thing up, similarity or difference, how the form. Okay, so we've got form in the middle of this. And we're going to talk about differences or similarities, right? You get to choose which one you want. Okay. For the next one, we're definitely talking about a difference. All right, this is about the setting, right? Okay, and these have to be different. All of those settings are different. So you're good with what's on the list, I think. Okay, explain the differences with the settings. You had to answer the question, T5. And I'm thinking, okay, they both had to use continuous narration. Why, right? Okay, so this is about why. And we have to have evidence from both. So T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6, T7. Okay, so could be a 7-point rubric, guys. There could be an 8-point rubric. I mean, they could pull a fast one on you and throw another compare or contrast in there. So this is all my best guess again. So I'm not sure exactly what would happen, but T1, T2, T3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that is our review. Okay, so I hope by now this is becoming something that's comfortable for you. If you're still having problems or questions about it, we haven't had a chance to get face to face. If you want to email me specifics until then, please feel free. I'd be happy to talk about art history anytime. I will investigate Google Hangouts and maybe we'll have a Q&A session sometime next week. Okay, but for now, I'll move on to Q2 in just a little bit.